Hi guys, it's Russ and Wayne. We're going to do a little bit of commentary on the games here because it seemed to be quite popular last year. So what should we pick, Russ? What should we go for? What table? We pick a table, any table.
Well, I think we should look at the top tables because that's where it's interesting, isn't it?
Okay, that's where the magic happens.
But before we get into too much, I think we should probably talk about the scenario. So we're playing Malign Portents and we're going into round 3 and the scenario playing is called Harbingers of Doom. And this scenario is quite interesting because you don't score until the very end of the game. And it's all about keeping units alive and getting them into enemy territory. So if we look at table 1, and we've got Jack playing Jimbo's Seraphim. See, Jack's playing Vanguard Wing, which is quite a manoeuvrable army. And he's put a lot of pressure on Jim Bob's army already. And he's got all his units here already. But it's quite early in the game, so we'll see how that pans out over the whole game. It's killed a Tree Lord. Well, that's really cool.
So if you half the table, because they're playing long way, so if you half the table, each half of the table is split into 2 again.
Yeah, so each band is worth different points.
Yeah.
But it's all about getting into your enemy's territory. So obviously Jack's been quite aggressive here, and we'll see how that pans out for him over the game, over the round.
So if you're deep in your enemy territory, it's 2 points, or 3 points if you've got a hero.
Yeah.
And if you're in the first section of your enemy's territory, it's 1 point or 2 points if you've got a hero.
So keeping the heroes alive is going to be really important. So, and we've obviously with Sylvaneth, he's obviously got a Wildwood in Jack's territory, which he could potentially use to jump to. But Jack's wisely using his Liberators and Adjudicators to shut that area down because you can't be within 9. So keeping those models around there is going to stop that happening. So if we move over to table 2. And we can see what's on there. And this is a matchup I'm really interested in seeing progress throughout this round. We've got Brian with his mixed order facing off against Ricky's Death, and we've got Nagash and Prince Vordry on the table. So this is going to be quite an interesting game. Both got quick-moving, resilient heroes, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how this pans out over the round.
I see Ricky's been wise to the quick charge from the Dragons and the Frost Phoenixes. He's got that line of dogs in front, putting up a barrier.
Kind of what you need to do, but Brian's already got his Canaries behind him. He's obviously dropped those from the sky, which is quite interesting, and maybe it would have probably been better to be a bit more patient with that. I don't know, because you don't score till the end of the game. So.
Yeah, well, I was speaking to Ricky earlier, and he said that usually the dogs, they win in most of his games for one reason or another.
I found when I was playing with my Death Army, the dogs were exceptionally good at jumping onto objectives. He
did say, though, in this scenario, it's the one time where the dogs don't really kind of earn their points because they don't fulfil the role they do in most scenarios.
I mean, they're still quick and they still heal, so we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, we never know. We'll see how it goes. But quite an interesting matchup.
Obviously, Brian's scoring early on because he's obviously got the 2 Canary units in deep in.
Well, he don't score to the end of the game, remember? So it's all about keeping him alive to the end of the game.
Yeah.
So
the tricky bit here is with the space that's behind Ricky's army. Ricky's got to make that decision of, does he try to clear those scoring units out, which are really, really important. But how does he do that without protecting what's coming in front of him?
Yeah.
And then being kind of circled sort of mid-game. It's a real tough matchup for him, I think, this one.
Yeah, I think there's some hard decisions to be made in his go. And if we look at table 3, we've got Daughters of Cain versus Stormcast. So lots of models on the table. It's going to be quite interesting to see how this plans out. So we've got the Star Drake and Fulminator list. Looks a little bit like the Les TM build. They're just ticking away, and versus the Daughters of Cain. So again, I think it pays to be patient in this scenario.
So this has a slightly different feel to it. I know obviously you've got the Stormcast flies in the corners there, and one of the characters, I believe. Yep, and but it'd be interesting to see because the Daughters have got the numbers where they could kind of, depending on how many units he's got, they can kind of split to sort of clear stuff out and still cover the board space. But it's going to be, I think this game's going to be really interesting how he uses the Star Drake.
Yeah, I think you probably find the Venators drop down to probably get a cheeky shot on Marathi.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it plans out. But I think as well, it depends on what guiding portents people have taken. what options they have in the game. There's some like retreat and charge, and minus to hit, extra mortal wound saves, and things like that.
And how they spend their prophecy points.
Yeah. So Liam's got the red mist.
Because obviously, as part of the malign pawns, you can spend prophecy points to buff units, affect things in the game, and I think actually with the amount of options you've got with spending prophecy points, there's so many different things you can do and so many different effects on the game. They will play I think they'll play a major role in this.
Yeah, and I don't think in this scenario, keeping your prophecy points, you don't need them for the scenario of scoring. Whereas the previous scenario we played, Dark Omens, you needed to spend them to score points.
Yeah.
So you could just blow your entire set of points every turn on all your cool abilities. So it'd be really interesting. That's the only harbingers in the top 3 tables. So obviously nobody's put them in their list and nobody's allowing the other person to have one. So that's what you get, top table behaviour.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll probably do it for now. If we have a look at the table 4 quickly.
Yeah, table 4. It's nice to see there's a Skaven model on table 4 this time.
Yeah, there is a Skaven model on you. It actually doesn't have the Skaven keyword, Wayne. You should know that. But you've got a mixed chaos against a Bloodbound army. So great to see an army, and obviously Russ's army here. He's got a lot of heroes, as you can see. So it's I think it's going to be quite an interesting matchup. But both armies want to get stuck in and run across the table. So we'll see how it pans out by the end of the game.
Completely different style of game, isn't it? This one.
Yeah, definitely.
This is going to be really, it's going to be who rolls the best in combat and try to break that line and then sort of run through the gap, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the Deceiver's going to be big in this because he obviously can jump around the board with Skittily. So I think that's going to be pretty big. If he be patient with that and on the last turn tops him to the back corner of the board.
It'd be interesting to see if he, with the Bloodthirster, whether he commits him or actually kind of flies up and then jumps over units to get in the back quarter.
Yeah, I think if you took like a retreat and charge portent, it'd be really useful because you're better retreat over the top of a unit you're fighting and then charge something else.
Yeah.
So I think, it's going to be really interesting. But I think that's the top 4 tables, and we'll probably let the people get on with their games and then come back and see how it all pans out towards the end of the round and see where people have ended up.
Okay, guys, we're back. We are seeing how Nagash is getting. There's a bit of a scrap going on there with Nagash and is that a Lord on a Dragon?
Yeah, be a Dragon Lord. So looks like Nagash the Phoenixes have retreated from Nagash probably quite wisely. Prince Vordry looks like he's fallen. 1 dragon's gone down. Obviously, Ricky still hasn't dealt with the Canaries in his backfield. He did keep 2 units in the graves, and he's actually used those to try and keep his backfield clear. I think in this scenario, if you're fighting in your territory, you're always on the back foot, really. Because obviously Ricky doesn't look like he's in a position to score, although Nagash could pop over with retreat and actually go for some points. With the bolt throwers placed in the backfield, he won't be able to utilise that grave marker and bring on those. I think there's 10 skeletons still in the graves to get him some extra points. So it's still quite close, but I think it all could have come down to can basically Nagash take that Dragon Lord out and probably a Phoenix, and can he then outscore? But he needs to get rid of those Canaries. It's still looking quite tough, but Ricky looks like he's on the back foot because he's fighting in his territory, which is never a good thing.
This looks like a really good game actually, because I mean Ricky likes. Well, he said to me yesterday he loves the tactical challenging games. The real kind of ones where he has to really think hard about what he needs to do, and you can see that going on there. Where he knows he's up against it, and he's just trying to work out how he's going to sort of dig himself out of a hole. I'll bet he's loving this game because he's all over it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just doing working out a charge there. So he can pop over and then pile into the Canaries with the Spirit Host.
Yeah.
Just be the end of those, I think. So.
Yeah, I think this game's all about what Nagash does or doesn't do.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got all those points invested in one hero, you've got to get the most out of him, otherwise it's going to be a little tricky.
Yeah.
It looks quite interesting on the next table, if we have a look at that. You've got Marathi is just bossing in that backfield, behind Dom's army, and that's going to be really tough for him to deal with. And as you can see, that looks like Liam went backwards to deal with the heroes and the characters that were in his backfield, and he's just holding that defensive line. So Liam looks like in a really strong position here. So I think it depends on what he does with the rest of his army. But Marafi, don't ask me how she got there, but she's there. Maybe there was a teleport with Steed of Shadows, maybe.
How do you think it'll pan out with the Star Drake and the Marafi in a one-on-one?
Well, I think if Marafi hasn't taken any damage, she's guaranteed to live for 4 rounds.
Yeah.
For 3 rounds. So my feeling is that, I mean, Ben Johnson went into Marafi into a Star Drake earlier and took it out in 1 round. So
right.
Over the course of the game. So maybe probably goes in and kills it. I don't know, but I think Liam looks in quite a strong position because he can push forward with the Witch Elves as well. And then basically be fighting inside Dom's territory, and he's got a hero in the backfield, and Marafi's quite difficult to get rid of because you have to commit to him multiple turns.
Yeah.
So I think Liam's in a really strong position here.
Yeah, it's looking good for him, isn't it?
And if we pop over to the next table, we can see Pano has all his corn pushing into the table. It looks like he's lining up for a Mighty Lord charge on the Bloodthirster. Russ has still kept his Deceiver alive. Looks like he's going to be popping into the backfield towards the end of the game. So I think Pano might be struggling a bit here.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Deceiver's still there, actually. I thought with the spaces, the space that he can ping into, or maybe he's just worried about the core graphs, because if he pings into the space that's there, the core graphs are charging. But
I think you just wait to the end of the game because you don't need to be there till the end of the game, so you might as well
just
keep
not
him
take
safe.
the risk.
No point pushing him in the backfield and getting him damaged. If that's your game plan, I mean, he does lose the ability to use that model for the rest of the game because he's just sat at the back, but it's fairly good that he could just basically sit there and wait, bide his time, last turn, pop into the back, score 3 points.
Be devastating if he gets to that moment where he knows just
fails the cast roll.
Yeah, he fails the cast roll. I was going to say, absolutely devastated.
Yeah. Or if Pano's got is playing Blades, just dispels it.
Yeah,
just goes right up Burn the Blood Tithe, dispel it.
Yeah.
So he's got he'll probably bank the points for that, I imagine.
That Bloodthirster hasn't done anything since we were last here. Kind of.
No.
It looks like he has.
He's been. Looks like he's been just stood there.
Waiting
he's probably
yeah.
killed quite a lot. He probably just hasn't moved very far. And then you've got table 1's all wrapped up.
Yeah, it's all over.
Which was Jack versus Jimbo. I think Jack took that game out.
Yeah, I think he pressed it really hard, didn't he, right from the start?
Yeah.
And I think Jim just struggled with it.
Shut the wood down in his territory, so Jim couldn't use that.
Yeah.
Pushed with a Vanguard wing and just ground him off. So I think it was a tough matchup for him.
Yeah.
So they're not there anymore, so we can. So I think that's it really for this. I mean, we can see. I think we're going to do predictions. Probably find that Brian and Ricky's quite close with the call. I think Liam's gonna be victorious in this game, and I quite fancy Pano's chances in this one. I don't know why, but I think he'll push him with his Bloodbounds, his core graphs. He'll score some points, and he'll just dispel the Skittling.
Yeah, I'm really not sure how that's going to go. I say this the hardest one, isn't it? Because the other games you can kind of you got to feel it. You're thinking, I think it's going to go this way, and but with table 4 now, I couldn't call that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll see, won't we? So.
Yep. Well, we'll come back at the end, guys, and we'll do a wrap up of how these games panned out. Okay, welcome back, guys. Game 3 is finished. We're just going to give you a rundown of what happened in those games, how they turned out, and whether we called it right or didn't. Let's start with table 4, shall we? Pano's game.
Yeah. So Pano against Russ, and basically what happened was Pano needed to kill the Bloodthirster with 3 blood boils from the Slaughter Priests. That's to do 3d6 mortal wounds, so took that off.
Yeah.
And managed to win the game. So he got all his army into his territory. So good resounding win for Pano on that one.
You called it actually, didn't you? When we looked at it last time, you said you thought he'd pull that off.
Yeah, I think maybe Russ could have been more aggressive with the Deceiver and just actually used it to clear the units out because he needed to actually make some headway. I think Pano used the Malign Portent Ignore Rend to keep the Blood Warriors alive, which is quite big against the Bloodthirster.
Yeah, massive.
And then because he did that, he put him within range of the 3 priests. and then he blood boiled him off, and that was basically pretty decisive. So,
when we looked at the game last time, I was kind of slightly concerned of what was actually going on with the deceiver, because it was almost like he was hesitant what to do with it.
Yeah, I think he was
holding off
trying
last
for
turn
that last turn pop over. But the problem is when you play against Bloodbound, they can just brass rune or just blood tithe, dispel that, and then they can't move. So he would have been stuck in his own territory anyway. So I think he would have been better off just trying to force that earlier in the game. And then say you do it on like turn 2, and he goes, right, I'll brass rune it or whatever. Yeah. And you're like, well, it's gone then. Yeah. Or you reset his blood tithe, and just use him to take out like the banner, take out some of the stuff with the shooting. It's got high rend. You know, make the decision of putting the deceiver into one, bloodthirster into another. You can only make one of them immune to rend, so you're going to get something. So I think maybe could have done that. So like
I said, you called it. You said you thought that Pano would come out victorious in that one, and he did.
Yeah, he's got a way of doing that.
No, fair play to him. So then it was table 3.
Yeah, which was Dom versus Liam. Marafi got into the backfield with the Steed of Shadows, and then he managed to Dom pushed his whole army forward. Went straight for the jugular with all his Stormcast and stuff. He didn't have enough units to stop the Canaries coming down late game. And Marafi just basically turned around and went straight back to the back of his army. And then between Marafi and the sacrifice from the Witch Elves, where they do a mortal wound back to you when you kill them, on the Star Drake, and Marafi just went in and just finished the Star Drake off. And literally all Dom had left was 2 Fulminators, but Liam was all over that. So he played a really good game. So I think it's tough matchup for Dom.
I mean, Marafi's, even without having to finish stuff, going in just on her own is a tank, an absolute tank. So, table 2.
Yeah, so a really close game again. Chippy versus Brian for Nagash.
We thought Brian was in a strong position here, didn't we?
Yeah, well, Brian managed to win a double turn late game, had a Phoenix in the backfield. Had some skinks causing some disruption, was able to push his dogs so they couldn't get into his territory. But then, from my understanding, is that Nagash hand-dusted a dragon.
Yep, that's right.
And then Nagash basically pushed into Brian's territory, and he was able to just do just enough to win on a minor. So he didn't get the major, but he just got the minor on victory points.
I mean, there was Chippy done really well in that game, because he was up against it and he kind of fought his way out of it.
Chippy's a really good player, especially when he gets into those tactical, close games. That's where he thrives, really.
Well, we talked about it, didn't we? Last time we said he loves that kind of game.
Yeah, he loves it.
And usually when he's in that situation, he tends to come out on top. So, he's done really well.
Fair play. So I think that puts him. I think actually that puts Liam and Pano, or one of them against Jack, maybe table 1. So maybe it's going to be Liam, Jack, Pano versus Chippy. I don't know, but I mean it'd be interesting tomorrow to see where it goes. But it's nice to see you've got Bloodbound, you've got Nagash, you've got Daughters of Cain, and you've got Vanguard Wing. So it's quite a nice mix. No Zinch really. There was some Zinch on table 5. So that was Zinch off, so one of the Zinch armies won. I don't know which one, but I imagine Zinch won that day. But I think there are some Zinch armies kicking around, but they're sort of slightly lower down. I think maybe the scenarios haven't happened too much.
I think it's been good to see that actually, there's plenty of players that embrace the malign portents and the cards. And actually, using their prophecy points wisely in the games.
It'd be massive. I mean, Paul Buckler won a game because he played against Caradrons. Popped his portent, -6 to your range, so he couldn't get the Alpha Strike in. He managed to get the Ironclad while he still had about half his army on it. Killed the Ironclad, couldn't deploy the men, lost half his army on turn 2. Ben Curry did the same thing. There was set up all the shooting, -6 inches. They're still out of range, can't shoot. So didn't think about the portent. Les played
massive effect.
Les played a blinder against John Dale, where he talked him into a charge onto a Star Drake. Went in, popped the portent, ignore rend. Star Drake 1-up save, re-rolling 1s.
Yeah, it's never dying, is it?
Ignore rend. Killed the entire unit of 30 hammerers with the -2 rend that they had in his army, and then just romped through the table. It was a brilliant play. So
just to recap on table 1, it was it was over fairly quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So
I mean, once Jack sort of got into that backfield, he was all over it right from the beginning, really, and it was just a really tough matchup. So he won that game probably in sort of half the time, really. The other games.
I think when you've got playing against army, it's got a lot of big monsters. that you rely on the woods to be manoeuvrable, and
Yeah.
then Jack shut the wood down with his infantry, used the Stormcast drop and the Vanguard wing
Yeah.
to get all his men into Jimbo's territory and take out some of his characters, and it was just going to be a grind then, and it just really was against it. So
Yeah, Jimbo was kind of, unlucky. I mean, that's a bad matchup for him, and he's kind of playing catch up all the time. But it's a situation where you can never catch up because it's too tough.
It's the sort of match you need 30 Dryads just to spring out around the board, so you can't do it to you. But he just didn't have it. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have the bodies. So. Yeah, it's a tough matchup.
So guys, that's a roundup of day one. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll give you some more news about the games going on, and any unusual stuff, any quirky stories. But,
exactly.
So we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yep, see you soon.